Let's talk about that time that I was in the middle of an open marriage. Yeah.
I got problems on problems on problems on problems on problems on problems I solve them. I run through the money, the pressure be calling. Left on my blessings, I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back, tell me I'm garbage. I'm going through something, that's why I ain't calling. Phone and progression, it's all that I wanted. The phone and affection, I summon and dub it. Cause I got problems on problems on problems on problems on problems on problems I solve them. I run through the...
Welcome back to another episode of the Problems on Problems podcast. I'm your host, Mike Santi. And this week we're talking about how I found myself in the middle of an open marriage. And now this might be the weirdest story to tell, especially because it happened post-divorce and all that stuff. So you're probably thinking, Mike, how did you end up in such a situation? I'll tell you. That's the whole point of the episode today. But a couple disclosures. I mean, for the sake of, as I just realized that all of my notes are usually behind the camera or off to the side of the camera. This one's directly behind the tripod and I can't read anything. So we're going to wing this episode. I mean, a couple disclosures, obviously, like most stories that involve people that, are still around and stuff like that. We will keep their identities anonymous. That way we don't really have to, deal with that. It's intimate situations in people's lives and we want to make sure that we're protecting those things. So that being said, everyone's going to get nicknames by everyone. One person's going to get a nickname. They're the main part of the story. And we'll figure out stuff along the way. But a couple things you need to understand about single Mike and relationship Mike. We're at our core, I'm the same guy. Now, how I act, I don't really know how to phrase this, but basically, there are traits that I have while I'm single that I don't really have while I'm in a relationship, whereas single Mike is a little bit flirtier, a little bit more jokey and things like that, kind of go with the flow. That might transition over into a relationship Mike who's like definitely not flirty, lock it down kind of thing, where it's like, hey lady, stay away from me. If anything, I kind of get the blinders put on me. I don't really start paying attention. I know every guy on here is just like, no, you're lying. Hey, listen, it's not that hard. If you're in a relationship, be in a relationship. If you don't want to be in a relationship, be single. But that being said, that's why when I'm in a relationship, I just don't pay attention to really anybody else because I'm not here for that. And, this is going to annoy me the whole time. But a while after I had been single, newly single, this is like way, way post-divorce and everything like that, like since had relationships and all that other stuff. But there was a woman who started following me on Instagram. I looked at her page and looked at her profile, and yep, she was cute. She was more than cute. She was really good looking. But what I had seen, per usual, you know me, I'm like a lazy stalker when I do my research, in the sense that like if I have to scroll really more than once, I've done too much work. So check her profile out, look at the first couple rows of pictures, nothing really about it. But I do see around like the fourth row or so at this time that like there's a dude in the picture. So I just think, you know what, it's gonna be fine. Let's just chill kind of thing. Let's take it slow. You never know where things go. Check the dates on the pictures. They're from about months ago. And so I didn't really think anything of it. Continue my life kind of thing. Here and there, I would get like responses or a reaction from a story in my DMs or something like that. And then I would just like, I'd acknowledge it, follow it up with have a conversation, nothing too malicious or anything like that. But eventually it started becoming this thing where like, in my eyes, I hadn't seen the guy pop up on her profile in a while or in her story. So I was like, oh, maybe it's just like an ex. Who knows? And so I basically took that where I was like, okay, I haven't seen him in a minute or so. The conversation that we have does not lead me to believe as though you're in a relationship. So we're okay. We're just going to be friendly, whatever, so on and so forth. Eventually, conversations led to where it became flirtier than that, until eventually Now, mind you, in this time process, I had followed her back and all that stuff. Obviously, that's how things work. You can't see my story. Actually, if you're stalking me, you could see my story without following me. We basically became Instagram friends, would talk, yada, yada, whatever, flirt here and there. And then that rolled into more or less where I was bold and I was like, hey, so when are we going to get food? When are we going to catch a drink? Catch a drink? Who says that? I'm too early in the episode. Maybe I'm not. But yes, something like that, where eventually the trigger was pulled where it was like, hey, let's go on a date. Like, let's go out. Let's meet each other in person kind of thing. So on and so forth. Let's get some questions answered. And so the date, we'll call it what it is. It was a date. Went out to a local like bar and restaurant kind of thing. Very casual. But it was like middle of the week kind of deal. And we had a good time. Like, it was just, conversation was going well. Yeah, I mean, there was some attraction, stuff like that. You know the deal. I don't got to explain to you how adults become attracted to each other. But all that to say that eventually the road led down to like, oh, hey, like, let's go back to my place. We can hang out. Full disclosure, nothing happened that night. Okay, y'all heathens. Okay, even I have boundaries. We came back to my place. We were just talking or whatever, hanging out on my balcony. And then she had mentioned something the day before where she was like, oh yeah, then I get to tell you more along the lines. And I can't remember what it is. And I'm definitely like loose paraphrasing at this point, but she more or less revealed to me that she was like, oh yeah, there's like something big that I have to tell you in person. So my mind starts racing where I'm like, I knew it. She definitely has a man, something like that. Like, we're going to find out on this date that she has a man, like that, something like that is not an ex, or maybe it was an ex, something like that. I'm going to get some clarification. But your boy basically went into this date with one goal: find out if she's single, which is wild to think back, like looking back on it. Hey, life advice to Mike. You should probably find out if people are single before you go on dates with them. You know, be better. But yeah, so I went into that date with like basically the goal of like, let's find out if she's single. She mentions that to saying something big in person. I'm very much on the page of, if you're going to give big news, in person's probably the best way to do it. If you can't do it in person, do we have to talk about communication? I don't know. For me, it's like in person, FaceTime, phone call, then a text kind of thing, where it's like, if it's important, I feel like if you can avoid it at all costs, don't text. But if it's not that, if it's the only way, sure. If it's not that important, do so accordingly. You know, learn how to communicate, that kind of thing. Have your own boundaries and standards of communication. So we get back to my place. We're on my balcony, chilling, talking, all that stuff. And she was like, so that thing I had to tell you. And I immediately go back into like, oh shit, here we go. This is going to be it. This is going to be the craziness. And she basically explains it as the following: that her and her man had been together for a while. They had been married for a bit, and they just realized that basically the way that it worked is that they were together for a while. Their jobs had basically sent them all over the place to the point where like they were no longer living in the same city, and eventually got onto this long conversation about what do we do to meet each other's needs when we're together, but we're not physically together anymore in similar cities or anything like that. The idea of an open marriage came to be, and that's how, without sparing, well, basically spare you guys a lot of details and really to protect the people at hand. The idea of an open marriage came to be within their relationship, and she told me about it. She was like, yeah, no, I'm still married, but like when we're together, we're together, and when we're not, we're not. And my mind was blown. Like, the first thing I told her was like, yo, my last marriage ended because of an affair. So like, I need to understand the full breadth. I don't know words. I need to understand the full scope of what you mean when you say open marriage. Like, is he also cool with it, or is it just open to you kind of thing? Like, back and forth, a lot of talking, and probably about like an hour of every question I had imaginable being answered. I was like, oh, okay. So y'all, I mean, for lack of a better word, Monday to Friday, y'all are single, and on the weekends, you're a couple. And so I will say this before, I mean, everybody's probably like all up in arms and everything like that, just being like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. First of all, who are you to judge? Second of all, who am I to judge? So my basic reaction was like, what was my reaction? Oh, I mean, obviously I was shocked, but there was a part of me that kind of respected it in the sense that like it takes, and we'll leave the part out where I like got enough evidence on my end to understand that like the husband was definitely open or in an open marriage, but respect. Weird to say, mainly because like I know for me, I couldn't do it. Like there's no way that I could be in an open marriage, and that's totally fine. Like to each their own. I think everyone has different definitions of what marriage is, and for me to say that like my definition is the only one would be super irresponsible and ignorant, honestly, and self-centered. But we got to a point where like I understood the entire situation, and I mean, props to them, honestly, for being able to like live their lives and be this transparent with people and this honest with people, because I can't imagine that it's that welcome of a topic, or that it's that welcome of a topic, or that welcome or open or understanding of a conversation piece, especially when it comes to the realm of dating, like romantically being involved with somebody else. And so for someone to be that vulnerable, transparent, honest, whatever you want to call it, I call it all of those things. It was, I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of cool. I mean, it was still super weird, where I was just like, what? But yeah, it was just one of those things that they were both on the same page about it. They were both open to it, kind of thing. And then I found myself kind of basically saying like, okay, well, if that's the case, cool, y'all do your thing. So be it. I'm still single. We'll see what comes of this. And then we hung out and like went on a couple of dates and did that for, I don't know, maybe a couple more weeks. And then it kind of just like, played its course. It fizzled out. It did its thing. Like I started getting more serious about someone that I was talking to. And eventually hubby got a job closer to that allowed them to actually, spend more time with each other, live in the same proximity of each other for multiple times, do the things that married people intend to do. And I tell this story mainly out of the lesson that, number one, never judge a book by its cover, but number two, you don't really know what everybody's going through and what their reasons are for X, Y, and Z. And if you just listen, you eventually find out. Now again, for everybody thinking like, yo, wild. Yes, it is. But also, it's a thing. It's their thing. Like, it is their, it's what they choose to do with their relationship. What you choose to do with yours is your business. And that's how they go on about life. I mean, still super dope people, at least from what I think or from what I've seen. But yeah, there was that time that your boy was in the middle of an open marriage. And now we have this story. I mean, good times, I think. So we'll take a break. And when we come back, we'll do the wrap up. We'll talk about all that good stuff. And surprisingly, we'll talk. How do I transition this to like wish you guys all like a happy Mother's Day? I don't really know, but we'll try and figure it out when we come back.
P.O.P.
And we're back. So we started off like we do with every wrap up with the great debate. Last week I had asked you. Last week I asked you guys. Last episode I asked you guys. It's getting rough out here. Last episode I asked you guys, what was the better 2004 party song? Now, mind you, after I saw how many 2004 party songs actually came out, I'm starting to think like maybe I need to do a bracket, but like, geez, a bracket for just 1 year? That's tough. But we'll get into that a little bit later, maybe towards the summer, give y'all something to look forward to, as if you look forward to filling out questionnaires and polls on Instagram. We move. But the winner of the Better Party song in 2004 out of Tipsy by Jaquan and Lean Back by Fat Joe was Tipsy with 62% of the votes. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty close for what happens most of the time, or compared to previous results. Listen, I know, at least from what I saw a geographic divide, in the sense that like the more northern you were, or at least the more northern you lived in area kind of stuff, you started leaning more towards a lean back type of, wow, you started leaning back towards it. Wow, puns. I hate myself. That's not true, a little bit. But yes, whereas a little bit more south, the more south you went in the U.S., you found out that more people were a little bit privy to the tipsy life. I'm not a stats guy, but so be it. Tipsy won with 62% of the vote. Don't worry, we got plenty more to come. And actually, do we want to ruin the surprise? Listen, one of these episodes will have a full-on debate about some artist from around our time. Just know that there's going to be some fighting happening between all these. But yeah, we'll do that with a special guest on the show. That being said, we move on to this week's debate. And originally, I'm going to ask you too. You know what? I'm going to ask you too because I'm just curious. The first one, with it being Mother's Day this weekend, all that good stuff. We know we love our moms. We want to treat them well. What's a better Mother's Day gift? Is it getting her flowers and plants, or is it taking her out to eat? I don't really know. I've done both in the past. This year, Mom wants a gazebo. I mean, she basically bought a gazebo. She just wants us to like pay it off. So that's probably what's going to happen, or at least like money towards this gazebo. But yeah, surprise, Mom. That's what's going to happen. But I don't know. I've also got her plants. Like, she likes doing her gardening thing. I'm not really about that life, but to each their own. Get your green thumb on. And then there's also, the nice part of taking somebody out to eat, so on and so forth. But yeah, let me know. And the second debate is, would you rather live your life without elbows or live your life without knees? If anything, this might not be the bonus. This might be what we talk about more often in next week's episode, because if I got no knees, I can't dance anymore. And for everybody that just said, oh, you could still dance with no knees, I know you have no rhythm, because there's a difference between hip dancers and shoulder dancers, and hip dancers need knees. You need your knees to dance from the soul, from the trunk, from the base. Just letting you know. Get that culture in you. But without elbows, I can't do... Why do I need my elbows? What have I done lately that needs my elbows outside of working out? Because when I type, I don't need my elbows. I could type straight, or like I could type Frankenstein style. That's fine. Yeah. Oh man, this is going to be tough. I think, but like, how often should I just give up now and stop like walking kind of thing? Oh, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you guys right now this week or this episode. We're going to have to talk about this on next week's episode, because I have too many questions and I can't decide right now. So we move on to our Friday follows. This week, did we do Friday follows last week? I'm pretty sure we did Friday follows last week. Yeah, we definitely did Friday follows last week. I remember. This week, if you are going to take your mom out for something to eat, or, just a treat here and there, you might want to think about following the first Friday follow, which is Charlotte Desserts, your favorite dessert source. Killing the game since whatever year that is. And honestly, it's like this. She is amazing. Paige is great. The Paige is great. Her name's not Paige. It's got all of your local dessert spots, places in and around the Charlotte area for you to get your sweet tooth kind of fixed. So make sure you go follow at CLT Desserts. That is CLTDESSERTS. Boom. On Instagram, and get it popping. You might get some good ideas for a date night. You might get some good ideas to take your mom out. Who knows? But the next place, in case you find out that you want something sweet and cold, you might head over to Paletas Morelia. It is a Miami-based ice cream bar, popsicle ice cream bar. Yeah, ice cream bar establishment. And I mean like in the sense of like paletas, popsicles, ice cream, that kind of thing. Ice cream on a stick, but with a very artisan twist, if you'd like to call it, where the amount of toppings, the amount of like accessories, if you want to call it that, flavors that you could have all in one ice cream popsicle, like you got to try it. You got to go now. They just opened a new South End location here in Charlotte. So go check that out at Paletas Morelia on Instagram. But that brings us to a conclusion. Do I have lessons for you today? I mean, don't judge people. That's probably the one lesson of the day. Do better. That's really it. Don't judge people. Do better. We're going to start doing that from now on. But yes, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell if you want notifications for when I post. We post new videos every Friday. Yes, we post new videos every Friday. That's definitely still a thing. So make sure you guys catch that. Don't forget that you can catch most of these episodes by the end of this month. I'll give you that much. By the end of May, I should have most of these episodes, if not all of these episodes, uploaded to Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, where you can currently find episode 1 of the podcast. If you want to catch up to the latest episodes of Questionable Content, make sure you're on YouTube. If you want to see my face, if you don't want to see my face, go somewhere else. Be mean somewhere else. But yes, don't forget to follow us at Problems on Problems Podcast on Instagram, at Problems_pod on Twitter. Somebody please help me make that easier. And like I always tell you guys to do, follow your boy Mike Santi 18 on all social media. But like I always say, guys, if it's not a good time, hope it's a good story, and I will see you next week.